Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's maybe a little bit heavier than usual, but also something that I think a lot of people will relate to, and that is dissociation.
Okay.
Dissociation. Ever
Mm.
get that feeling of like, I'm here, but not really here?
Yeah, I think psychiatrist Dr. Tracy Marks, she explains this so well in some of her videos. And basically what she's talking about with dissociation is when your mind and emotions kind of check out for a bit,
Yeah.
they kind of go on vacation.
Oh, yeah. It's like that feeling of depersonalization or derealization where you're either like outside of your body watching yourself or the world around you just seems kind of fake and weird.
Right.
And she has this really interesting point, though, where she's like, sometimes dissociation isn't always a bad thing. Like our brains can actually use it to protect us during overwhelming situations.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for instance, she uses this example of smelling burnt rubber after you've been in a car accident, even if you weren't the one driving. And that smell can get so tied to the trauma that even just being in a car later on can trigger that sensory flashback,
Wow.
like a phantom smell. But the feeling it evokes is very real.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to like how our brains are so adaptable and how they try to find ways to cope when we're under extreme stress.
Yeah.
And so during a traumatic event, if there's no way to physically escape dissociation, can be like an emergency brake for our nervous system.
Yeah, it's like if your brain can't get you out of the situation physically, it at least tries to get you out of your body.
Right.
But that's where her metaphor about unpaid interest when it comes to trauma is so true. Dissociation might help you survive the initial event, but the cost of that experience doesn't just vanish.
Yeah, it's like the body keeps the score. Even if we try to like bury that trauma, it can still resurface in really unexpected ways. Maybe you feel chronically empty or numb, or you get hit with those intrusive flashbacks, or maybe you zone out for long periods of time. And even those seemingly random anxiety triggers, like a certain sound or a smell, those can be tied back to the trauma too.
Yeah, and think about how this might be playing out in your own life.
Right.
Have you ever experienced a trigger that felt totally out of the blue?
Uh-huh.
She also talks about how anxiety itself can trigger dissociation. Like it becomes the fuel for that detachment.
Oh.
So she gives this example of someone who's really stressed out at work, and then they start to feel disconnected from their colleagues. Almost like the people around them become the trigger.
Yeah, I can see how that could easily become a vicious cycle. The stress and anxiety build, leading to dissociation as a coping mechanism, which then just makes it harder to connect and function in that environment.
Totally. So what can we do to regain control?
Well, Dr. Marks, she mentions different therapies like trauma focused CBT, prolonged exposure therapy, and EMDR.
Okay, but those are best done with a qualified mental health professional, right?
Definitely, these therapies involve going back to those traumatic memories and processing them in a safe and structured way. So, with trauma focused CBT, the focus is on identifying and changing the negative thought patterns that are linked to the trauma. Prolonged exposure therapy works by gradually exposing you to the things you fear, but in a controlled environment.
Hmm.
And then EMDR uses specific eye movements or other forms of bilateral stimulation while you process the traumatic memories.
Okay, so those therapies sound incredibly valuable for addressing those root causes of dissociation. But what can we do in the meantime right now to start feeling more grounded?
That's where grounding techniques come in. They're like a first aid kit for dissociation tools that we can use to regain a sense of safety and connection to the here and now, especially when those feelings of detachment start to creep in.
I like that, a first aid kit. So Dr. Marks, she breaks these techniques down into two main categories, sensory grounding and cognitive grounding.
Right.
Sensory grounding is all about using our senses to pull ourselves back to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like snapping your fingers in front of your brain and saying, hey, wake up. We're here in the real world.
It really is. And she provides a whole bunch of examples, but let's unpack a few that really stand out. Okay, so first up, we have the 5-4-3-2-1 method.
Oh, yeah, this is a classic.
That's fun.
And it's all about just like bringing your attention to your immediate surroundings.
Exactly.
It's like a quick inventory of your senses to bring you back to the here and now. You want to try with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first, name 5 things that you can see around you right now.
Hmm.
Okay, I see my trusty microphone, of course, and my notes are here sprawled out across my desk like some kind of unruly garden. Oh, and a very determined-looking plant is staring me down from the corner, probably judging my chaotic note-taking.
Okay, I see my ever-present stack of books that seems to like multiply overnight,
Right.
and the comfy chair I'm sinking into, essential for, deep thinking. And a very intriguing abstract painting on the wall that always sparks my curiosity.
All right, now we need 4 things you can hear. I can hear the gentle hum of my computer, a constant reminder of the digital age we live in. And the distant chirping of birds outside, always a welcome sound. Oh, and the quiet click of my pen as I jot down notes. And wait, is that my stomach rumbling?
Mm.
Guess it's time for a snack break soon.
Okay, I hear your voice guiding us through this exercise. The soft rustle of papers as I shift through my notes, and the quiet tick-tock of the clock on the wall reminding us that time marches on even when we're lost in thought.
Now for three things you can touch. I can feel the soft fabric of my shirt, a familiar comfort. The cool smoothness of my desk, always a reliable surface for my work. And the warmth of the mug in my hand. What about you?
I feel the smooth leather of my notebook, always a trusty companion, the soft texture of the rug beneath my feet grounding me to the floor, and the gentle pressure of my glasses on the bridge of my nose, a constant reminder that I need to take breaks from staring at screens.
Okay, almost there.
Ah,
Two things you can smell. I can smell the lingering scent of coffee, the fuel that keeps this deep dive running, and that fresh, clean scent of air after the rain. It always feels like a reset button for the world.
I smell the faint aroma of the lavender hand cream I used earlier, and the comforting smell of old books, a scent that always takes me back to my childhood and the joy of getting lost in stories.
And last but not least, one thing you can taste. I think, for me, it's the lingering sweetness of a piece of chocolate. I
Right.
snuck earlier. I have a major sweet tooth. What can I say?
I can taste the lingering bitterness of my morning coffee, a taste that always helps me feel alert and ready to tackle the day.
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Yeah.
It's amazing how such a simple exercise can really bring you back to the present moment.
Yeah, absolutely. By focusing on those concrete details, you're essentially reminding your brain that you're here, you're safe, and you're connected to your surroundings.
Another sensory grounding technique she mentions is using a strong smell. She suggests things like ammonia or tea tree oil, but honestly, it could be anything that has a really potent scent for you. Maybe a favorite lotion, or a specific spice, or even that bar of soap you love.
What's really interesting about that one is how scent is so powerfully linked to memory and emotion. So having like a go-to smell, almost like a secret weapon, can be a really powerful way to kind of snap yourself out of that dissociative state and reconnect with the present.
It's like having a sensory anchor, something you can rely on to pull you back to reality.
Yeah.
And speaking of anchors, another technique that really stood out to me was carrying a sensory grounding object.
Oh, yeah. Something tactile, something you can hold and focus on when those feelings of detachment start creeping in. Maybe a smooth stone or a squishy stress ball, a piece of soft fabric, anything that provides that kind of comforting and grounding sensation.
I've heard of people carrying worry stones or fidget toys, too.
Mm.
This is a subtle but powerful reminder that you're here, you're present, you're okay.
And then there's the cold water technique. This one might sound a little jarring at first, but it can be really effective.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Mark suggests splashing cold water on your face and neck, but even if that feels too intense, you can just run cold water over your hands.
I've heard this can be really helpful for panic attacks, too. It's like that shock of cold. It really jolts your system, interrupts that dissociative trance, and brings you back to the physical sensations of your body.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system.
Yeah.
And it really highlights that powerful connection between our physical sensations and our mental state.
Okay, so we've talked about sensory grounding techniques, which are all about using those external senses to anchor ourselves to the present. But Dr. Marks also talks about cognitive grounding techniques, which are more about using our thoughts to kind of guide us back.
Right. It's like using your mind to talk yourself back into the present moment, especially when those feelings of detachment start to take over.
So what are some of the cognitive grounding techniques she suggests? One that really stood out to me was this technique called show yourself you're safe.
Okay. It's so simple, but so powerful. And basically, it's just like walking yourself through the facts of the situation, comparing where and when the trauma happened to where and when you are right now.
It's about creating that distance, both in time and space between yourself and that event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I like about what Dr. Mark suggests is that you actually say it out loud. Like literally talk yourself through it.
Oh, wow.
So you could be like, okay, that happened 5 years ago at my old apartment on a Tuesday afternoon.
Well,
But right now it's Friday evening. I'm at home in my safe space, surrounded by things that bring me comfort.
yeah, you're anchoring yourself to that present reality. Like by stating those facts out loud, you're reinforcing them in your mind and creating that separation between then and now.
It's like giving your brain a reality check.
Right.
Proving to yourself, hey, I'm not there anymore.
Exactly.
That was then, this is now. Another cognitive grounding technique she recommends is orienting yourself to time and place.
Oh, yeah.
And this might seem obvious, but when we're dissociating, we can actually lose track of those basic anchors. right? It's like our internal GPS goes haywire
Totally.
and we just feel lost.
Yeah.
So this technique is about consciously bringing those details back into focus. Look around, name what you see, where you are, what day it is, what time it is.
Okay.
It's a way of reestablishing your connection to reality.
Like, okay, I'm here in this room on this day at this time. This is real and I'm okay.
Exactly.
And finally, let's talk about the power of coping statements.
Yes.
These are like affirmations or phrases that you can repeat to yourself to shift your mental state.
Uh-huh.
And she gives some great examples in the video. Like, I can handle this. My situation is so much better now. These feelings will pass.
I love that. And what's so powerful about coping statements is that when you repeat them with that conviction, they can actually start to calm down your nervous system and counteract that anxiety that often goes hand in hand with the dissociation.
It's like giving yourself a pep talk.
Right.
Reminding yourself of your strength and your resilience. Like, I got this.
Exactly. And the beauty of coping statements is that they can be personalized. You can choose phrases that resonate with you, that speak to your specific needs and your challenges.
It's like creating your own little mental toolkit
Absolutely.
of affirmations to use whenever you need them.
It's all about finding what works best for you. Because managing dissociation, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's a journey of self-discovery and learning to navigate those challenging moments.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about how dissociation is a survival mechanism, how it can linger long after the danger is gone, and all these amazing grounding techniques that can help us regain that sense of presence and safety. But I think it's important to remember, as Dr. Marks points out, that if even these basic grounding techniques feel difficult or ineffective, it might be a sign that professional help is needed to really address that underlying trauma.
Absolutely. There's no shame in reaching out for support from a therapist who specializes in trauma and dissociation. They can really provide that guidance and support as you work through those deeper layers of healing.
Yeah, it's like having a guide on that journey of self-discovery and healing. And the good news is that with the right tools and resources, it is possible to reclaim that sense of self and live a more grounded and fulfilling life.
It's not about erasing the past or pretending the trauma didn't happen. It's about learning to navigate those experiences in a way that allows you to move forward with strength and resilience.
Yeah, and that journey might involve therapy, practicing those grounding techniques we talked about, or even exploring things like mindfulness or yoga. It's about finding what works best for you, what helps you feel more present, more connected, more you.
And remember, healing isn't linear. There will be ups and downs. Days where you feel grounded and empowered, and days where those feelings of detachment might creep back in.
Yeah, it's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You might wobble, you might even fall a few times. But with practice and persistence, you eventually find your balance and start gliding with confidence.
Exactly. And just like learning to ride a bike, learning to manage dissociation takes time, patience, and self-compassion.
So be kind to yourself, celebrate your progress, and never hesitate to reach out for support when you need it. Remember, you're not alone on this journey.
You're absolutely right. And even in the midst of those dissociative moments, there's a part of you that's strong, resilient, and capable of healing and thriving.
That's such a powerful reminder. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. What if those moments of dissociation, those times when you feel disconnected, are actually invitations to reconnect with yourself, to explore those deeper layers of your being, and to discover the incredible strength and resilience that lies within?
It's a journey of self-discovery, a journey of healing, and ultimately a journey worth taking.
Until next time, take care and keep diving deep.